Walking through the new gateway to the National Corvette Museum is like going back in time. This feels like a fitting place to tell the story of the very beginning of Corvette racing and the man who first took Corvette to Le Mans. Our second inductee into the Corvette Hall of Fame, Mr. Briggs Cunningham II. Briggs was born on January 19, 1907. His father was a wealthy financier who had made a fortune investing in real estate and a variety of other interests. One such investment was in a little company started by William Proctor and James Gamble, who had invented a bar of soap that could float. Cunningham Sr. was the sole investor. He would pass away at age 75, leaving his son a sizable fortune to build his own dreams upon.
Briggs Cunningham, or Mr. C as many of his friends called him, was truly an adventurer and a competitor at heart. Early on in his life, he raced with Miles and Sam Collier at the private roads around the Collier estate. And he gained worldwide recognition in 1954 when he landed on the cover of Time magazine. He raced on water too, winning the America's Cup in a yacht known as Columbia in 1958. His big desire was to win for America, using American teammates and American equipment, especially if it was a car he built and won with.
Was he competitive? Yes, he was. But that's why he wouldn't play cards with my mother, because he couldn't beat her.
Even though Chevrolet had officially agreed to an industry-wide ban on racing, Ed Cole was secretly behind the effort to see Corvette compete at Le Mans. Both Ed and Corvette chief engineer Zora Arkus-Duntov, a racer himself, knew that a Le Mans win was essential to building the reputation of Corvette as a performance car.
For those who may not follow road racing, I can tell you that the 24 hours of Le Mans is the Holy Grail. It is a race that's attended by over 300,000 people, viewed around the world live by over 800 million people. To compete at this race, to be invited to compete, is an honor. To finish the race is an achievement. To win the race is a fulfillment of your life's biggest dream.
His goal was to win Le Mans as an American constructor. That didn't work out. He took an American constructor in Corvette, and it was the opportune machine to race at that time. And he took advantage of it.
On June 25, 1960, the race began. Aston Martin took the early lead, but the Maseratis were faster that day. Le Mans isn't just about speed, however. Winning this race requires being able to see it through to the end. Within 4 hours, all of the Maseratis had been retired. The #1 Corvette would be the first of the Cunningham cars to fall. With the threat of rain looming ahead, the call had been made to let the car go without wet tires for a while longer. This turned out to be a huge mistake. The car would go out of control and flip. Thankfully, the driver escaped uninjured. Shortly after that, the #2 Corvette went off the track, doing 130 miles an hour, hitting the wall. It would limp back into the pit for repairs and later get back into the race. But ultimately, the engine blew, leaving only the #3 Corvette with a shot at victory. Things were looking good for the remaining Corvette, but on one stop, a crew worker wound up pulling the radiator cap off, causing hot water to shoot out, and the rules would not allow liquids to be added to the car at that point. For a lot of teams, this might have ended their day, but Mr. C had assembled a crew that wouldn't readily accept defeat. Thinking quickly, someone had the idea of putting ice in the radiator. With ice being solid, it wouldn't be a violation of the liquid rule to add it, so race officials permitted it. Zora watched wide-eyed from afar as the crew began packing ice around the engine to cool it off, while also slipping chunks of it into the radiator. As they sent the car out, more bags of ice were hauled in so they could continuously re-ice it. The crowd, sensing the drama of it all, gathered behind the Corvette pit to cheer the team on as the steaming #3 came in for each of its cooldowns. In the end, this strategy paid off, with the #3 Corvette coming in first in its class and 8th overall. The first year that Corvette had raced at Le Mans, it had won.
But it was Briggs Cunningham who led the way for Corvette racing at Le Mans by performing exactly the same way as we did back in 1960. You can't make that up. That is a divine intervention.
I think it's important to note here that Corvette really needed Briggs Cunningham. He brought with him his experience of racing at Le Mans. He brought unlimited resources to bring together the best of the best to really give this upstart first-generation Corvette its best chance.
My dad always brought the best people to whatever he was doing, whether it was playing golf, racing cars, flying airplanes. He always had the best he could get. Never bragged about anything. I mean, he could have won every race and never said a word. It was always whoever drove the car, whether it was John Fitch, Phil Walters, or somebody, how well he did.
Although other privateer teams tried, it took another 13 years for Corvette to win its class again. Because of that win, Corvette's Le Mans legacy goes all the way back to the first generation. Because of that win, men like Zora Arkus-Duntov, Ed Cole, John Fitch, Bob Grossman, and really everyone who loves Corvette has bragging rights all the way back to 1960. Then think of all the people that were inspired by this win.
When I think of the impact he had in the Corvette world, I only have to look as far back as my father and best friend, Chip Miller. My father's love for the Corvette goes back to the car that Mr. C built and raced. It helped fuel his passion for making his own mark by starting Corvettes at Carlisle. Little show up in Carlisle, PA. Hopefully you've been there once or twice. This 1960 Cunningham Le Mans class-winning Corvette with the number 3 in the door was so important to my father that he went on a quest to find it and restore it. Kevin McKay restored this car to perfection with his team as it raced in 1960 at Le Mans. I got to take the car back in 2010 to Le Mans, and John Fitch, he was able to take to the wheel, drive around the same circuit he did 50 years prior, and enjoy a lap. It was an amazing day. Now it's my honor to preserve this car's place in history and share it with others as a tribute to my dad, Mr. C, John Fitch, Bob Grossman, and Corvette.
Standing on the shoulder of giants, and I think he was one of those giants in the beginning that gave opportunity and set the foundation for racers today.
Everything we have built at Corvette Racing was built on the shoulders of people like Briggs Cunningham. They did this on their own ambition, their own money, their own fortitude, their own passion. They did it the hard way. We are the beneficiaries of what Briggs Cunningham started in 1960. And we live every day as writing a new page in the history books for Corvette. It all started with Briggs. We can't thank him enough. He is the man who began this legacy.
For adding to the legend of so many Corvette heroes and giving the title of Le Mans class winner to Corvette for the first time, we proudly welcome Briggs Cunningham into the Corvette Hall of Fame.